Greetings, you've landed at the VUC, IP Communications and VoIP Community. We would like to thank Simwood.com for their support. Simwood can turn you as a developer into a telco. Our hosted PBX is from OnSIP.com, and you can go to GetOnSIP.com for a URL people can click to call you. We've been privileged over the last 5 years to be using the best conference bridge on the planet. Yes, I'm talking about ZipDX.com, full color, full featured, full HD conference bridge. Our website, VUC.me on the webs, hosted by Bluehost.com. And our worldwide local rate dial-ins are from Voxbone.com. Okay, hey everybody, it's VUC 528. We're really pleased to have some great guests with us. In answer to a question that Matthew asked me a few minutes ago, we would normally maybe be going with Matrix first since they're here. Excuse me, but we can't do that because we're waiting for James with a demo. So first off, let me introduce the folks that are with us. Starting, and this is in order of who I'm seeing. Okay, so we have with us from Matrix Amandine. Hello, Amandine.
Hello.
And welcome. I think you've maybe been on briefly before, but welcome to the VUC. We're happy to have you.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Andy Smith needs no introduction at all, so he's here with us. Hello, Andy. Debbie Davies, not the guitarist, right? But
not
better than the guitarist. The lovely Debbie, who we met in Berlin, and we're really pleased to have you. Debbie, thank you for joining us. It's great to have you.
Thank you.
You're going to be telling us about your work in Berlin, presumably, or maybe it's not tied to Berlin. I don't know, but we'll get to that.
In America.
Okay. Then we've got, of course, Matthew Hodgson, who's also Matrix, and he says he looks like his VM host has died. But apparently, you still look good, so you're still alive.
Well, that's interesting. That's
you're still here for the moment.
That's like Andy having a disaster.
Welcome back. Michael Graves, of course, needs no introduction. He's the guy who does half the stuff around here. And I want you to check out his poster in back, which is a great argument for excellent definition. It says every last byte. Life is simple, every last byte. Tim Patton, of course, is Mr. WebRTC, among other things, and a regular. We're always happy to have you with us, Tim. And, ladies and gentlemen, it's Yulia from Moscow. We can hear you now, Yulia, right?
Hi, guys. Sorry, nice to see you, and nice to be with you.
It's great to have you. We're going to be talking a little bit about. We're going to be talking a little bit about what you're doing soon. Of course, this is me. Everybody knows me, and I have a huge spot right here, so I am not going to show myself so much. We really should get started, if you folks don't mind, maybe with Wire, simply because we want to do that demo, show the screen of Matrix when James gets back. So if everybody's okay with this, who would like to talk, besides me, about a Wire? Who would be the first likely candidate? I mean, you've all used it, I think. Well, maybe Yulia hasn't, but...
Me?
Yeah, you know Wire? Yes, of course, you've been on Wire, right? Any reflections you'd like to make on it?
Just, what should I tell you? It's another messenger, and what should I tell about the functions, what I like about it, what I don't like, or...
Yeah, I mean, is there any... Did you see any... Because, in a sense, what you're saying is just another messenger. It's true, it is just another messenger. Did you like the look, or is there any particular thing that you thought stood out about Wire?
The first who used picture, I mean photo of a person during conversation, so this makes this conversation very personal, and it adds some emotions to a messaging process. But from another side, this picture was set up by another party. So if I don't want to see this picture, I cannot change it. From other side, it can also rotate some customers, some people who use the service. So that's what I found about it. And other functions I didn't test much, but I just saw this from psychological point.
Right. And that's you make a good point. I'm going to call on Tim in just a second, but let me mention that we're talking about Wire, which is at wire.com, WIRE.com. That's right,
Okay.
Tim. Take a drink. And also, you might not know that they have a web client now because it was restricted. There is no Windows client, right? That's correct, isn't it? So it was restricted to people with Mac OS 10 or iOS or Android. But you can now.
In just a moment, I'll put the web client on my screen, and you can see it.
So, Tim, you want to give your appreciation, a couple thoughts on what by the way, we invited Wire, Alan and Jonathan and a bunch of people, but they're all running around, and I guess they don't have time. Not a problem. We'll talk about it for them. Tim?
I mean, I think Yulia's thing about the psychology and the look is right. I think it's probably the most interesting aspect of it is the way that they've tried to make it look. And what I hadn't realized, and this is a cross between me being ignorant and them being too subliminal, I think, is that the image actually blurs. So if you're in a group chat, what you see as the backdrop for the chat, and maybe Michael can show us this in a minute, you see as the backdrop for the chat is the last person who spoke or typed, and they fade over time. They get less and less visible, which I think is a really interesting, subtle trick. It's so subtle I missed it for about a month until somebody pointed it out to me. So maybe that's like, I don't know if it actually added to it subliminally and I didn't know it, or maybe it's too subtle for real users. I don't know.
No,
Has anybody else noticed this?
Yeah, I saw it at the beginning because it does an incremental fade as you scroll up. So it's about 20-30 pixels on the phone, and it goes and increases the Gaussian blur that they're doing on it. And yeah, it's subtle and quite subliminal and nice. But I agree with Yulia that it's a little disconcerting to see your face taking over someone's entire wallpaper every time you say something. And it's kind of interesting because it means the person who had the last word in the conversation ends up branding it forever. So there's this bizarre kind of incentive to have the last word.
Yeah. But if you scroll up, see this is our active VUC chat stream in Wire on my. If you scroll up, it blurs that last person's image as sort of a context shift, right? And then as you get down to where they said the last thing, that it comes back like that. It's actually kind of pleasant. Although I will say I did get some comments from Jim Courtney that inspired me to change my profile pic because he felt that I was staring at him all afternoon the other day.
Oh, me too, especially on the Wire, on the desktop beta, which I think is top secret, by the way, Randy. So nobody knows about the beta.
No. Yeah, that's right. I probably was. I was supposed to say, and I promised I was going to say that it's coming soon. It is a very, very restricted beta, but they will have a web client soon, and they're going to, I presumably, have a Windows client too.
Yeah, it's interesting that they've switched to no longer desaturating the image, so you do see it in beautiful color, and it's a lot more kind of spectacular. So yeah, Michael's image staring back like a kind of 1984 Orwellian figure was a bit freaky. So just as well as changed.
Has that switch made it to the switch in color? Made it to the Apple client, because I'm running it on the Apple desktop, and everyone's still kind of sepia tones rather than full color.
Both the OS and the iOS apps are still doing it in sepia, but Android is doing it in color now, I believe.
Okay.
And yet the Android app still has the little slider where you can go in and pick the color that they would use to kind of sepia tone the image, but it doesn't. It's just not as pronounced in its use.
So I mean, I think this kind of stuff is indicates, and it's kind of, this is a segue into what Debbie does. This indicates the way that the kind of artistic presentation of apps is starting to become important, and that it's real-time communications is finally stopping looking like a teletype and starting to look more like real life. And I think that's or at least attempting to. I think some of it is a mistake and some of it works very well, and maybe that varies from person to person. But I think that aspect is kind of really interesting, and that seems to be, to me, what an aspect of what Debbie does, but I wouldn't speak for her. I wouldn't dare.
No. Steve Jobs started it all by making sure everything looked pretty.
You know, that's
well, I mean, there's value in an aesthetic, right? There's value in it being aesthetically.
What's expected now?
It's moving to packaging, though. I mean, I got a 1+1 you see by the box. You've seen this, Michael. The box looks a little bit like Apple box. A lot of the Nexus, the Google stuff. Let's get back to Debbie, though. Debbie, I was just going to ask you if you've even tried Wire or know anything about it before we talk about it.
I just sat here going, I have no idea what they're talking about.
Okay, so Wire is another client that does real-time stuff. James is with us. Debbie, let's talk about you and what you're doing. How do we introduce that?
I am an artist living in Berlin, waiting to see if America will say yes to my visa application to come and live and work there for 3 years. So I'm just hanging out in Berlin, waiting for a verdict. Doing some art, working with a lot of startups out here. I work as an artist, but my background, my recent background was working for University of London at a place called the Centre for Creative Collaboration, which was more of an incubator than an accelerator. So I worked a lot with startups who were in the first 18 months of their business, probably. And I had an opportunity to come to Berlin, do my job remotely. My job's now finished with University of London, so I'm just picking up bits of work here and there, and as I said, waiting for my visa application to be approved of or not. Okay,
so no knowledge of Wire. We should terminate the Wire thing by asking Amandine for her impressions if she'd care to give any. You don't have to, but if you would like to speak on it, that'd be fine. Amandine.
Sure, as soon as I manage to unmute myself. So yeah, I really think that the user experience on the app is interesting, and I completely agree with Tim on this. The fact that we're entering in a time where user experience is becoming central, and I think it's really exciting because there are a lot of stuff to be done here. Very complicated user experience things to attack, but yeah, I think the coming years can be very interesting in that area, and Wire is part of this kind of new revolution, in my view at least.
They did do a great job on that. I agree with all of you. Just out of curiosity, has anyone tried Snapchat? I've asked a couple of you individually. Snapchat is the big, bright new object, and it's mostly for young, obviously people younger than all of us.
But it's not that new. My
no, it's not that new.
Been using it for years.
But I asked because it has the absolute worst UI of anything I've ever seen. It's just completely. But it's a brilliant concept. I don't want to go on about that. We're not here for that. But it's a brilliant concept. I think that it's got a huge future, and I think it's growing, and it's going to be big because it's, you know, young people are not interested in Facebook and all the tame stuff anymore. And the paradigm, is that right? Yeah, is good, but the UI is just completely unmanageable. You really don't know what's going on. And James is with us, so we can talk a little bit about Matrix now as well, and try to. Can you arrange that for us, James? So we can.
I can. Yeah. Okay. This afternoon we you know we like dangerous demos.
Oh, do we do? We do.
So dangerous.
So what we're going to do is we're going to take my iPhone 6 and hook it up to my MacBook, which is what we're talking on right here, and so I can share a screen. But whilst I'm thinking about how I'm going to do that, Randy, you just bubble onto yourself what's next.
Well, actually, James, can I just check, because Andy messaged me about 2 minutes after we went on air to say that the TruePhone server that runs Matrix had disappeared off the internet. Which is possibly,
I was going to let him go through the whole setup. I'm sorry, you ruined it. The network. I'm afraid we have a network problem to the server that has matrix.tp.me on it. It is currently inaccessible, so you would have to connect through the matrix.org server.
Yeah, so if you just sign in to the app or log out and log in.
Well, I'll tell you what. If I share my screen, you can talk me through what I've got to do to reconfigure it.
Ah, that sounds like a perfect idea. Let's hope that the logout button works.
Right. and for some reason it's
So if
not.
I'm supposed to be burbling while James is setting up here, what we did not do is mention, because here we are talking about Wire, we didn't really say that it does have person-to-person audio calling. It's audio only, right, I think. Which...
No, it isn't. It's video as well.
Oh, does it have video as well?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, calling... No, Tim says no. Calling...
No, Tim
I got
says
700 ways to call people.
Tim's
you know, I mean,
wrong.
so no, he's wrong.
Yeah, believe it or not, Tim can be wrong.
No.
We do video on Matrix, don't we, Matthew?
No, we're talking about Wire.
Yes, indeed.
Oh, Wire. Oh, yeah, Wire.
No, Wire doesn't do video. I was just saying that
not-
before we conclude the discussion of Wire, to say that you can make audio calls with it. But I mean, everybody and his grandmother is making audio calls, so I mean that's not actually something to get all excited about. I'm trying to think of some messenger that doesn't make audio calls right now. Can you? Can anyone?
IRC.
IRC. Well, yeah, right. IRC is the only thing that I know that doesn't do.
When Tango launched, the interesting thing is that they literally only did video calling and nothing else, and you couldn't even turn off video. And FaceTime too, of course. You couldn't do audio until they finally launched FaceTime audio. So, I mean, there is some precedent for it.
That's a good point. Yeah, audio. I have not been a big FaceTime user myself, and now I don't have a client, so I mean I don't have an Apple phone.
So whilst James is battling with his screen sharing setup, perhaps I can give a quick update on where we're at on Matrix at the moment and what we're going to show. Because I guess we last spoke about this in December, and it was very early days. We tried to do some WebRTC calls, and Jitsi was melting everyone's laptops, and it went quite interestingly. But since then, things have got a lot more performant and stable. It's still in relatively early beta. So we only went into formal beta, I think, that week that we did the last VUC back in December. So now we're a few months in, but things are taking off quite a lot. We've had some coverage recently on Linux Weekly News, which was a bit surprising, given we're not really to do with Linux. But LWN wrote up a very nice story on us yesterday. We've had Hacker News going viral on us. We've had a lot of coverage at FOSDEM, and amazingly, people are starting to federate up and use Matrix servers all around the place, which is frankly a bit terrifying, as we have a constant stream of people coming into the chat rooms there. And if people aren't familiar with what Matrix is, it's basically a decentralized chat system, and you can even see a screenshot of it right now. This is our web client showing some chaos in #VUC on matrix.org. We seem to be zoomed in a bit, at least there on my view, which makes it slightly hard to see what's going on. But basically, it's like IRC, but it does WebRTC as well as the chat. It's completely decentralized, so that if, hypothetically, your server drops off the net, you can still get at the history of the rooms which are hosted there. And when it comes back on, it can resynchronize all of its history so that you never lose anything. You might even see this happening. So I'm not entirely sure what's happening there on the screencast. I think Randy's having far too much fun trying to screencast.
So Debbie's in the center of the universe for cryptographic messaging, and I no doubt some of your meetups have been. There have been people in black jeans and black shirts who won't give you their names. So I suspect that this is probably the kind of thing they're interested in.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
Yeah, we've had a lot of interest from the German crypto freak and cyberpunk kind of school, especially at FOSDEM. Lots of gentlemen turning up with black fedoras with silk bands and little round glasses and trench coats and very, very chunky black boots who wanted to talk to us, yes, you know who you are, who wanted to talk to us for hours on end about some key ratchet algorithms and some of the crypto that we're doing. And the embarrassing thing is that the single biggest feature missing from Matrix right now is end-to-end encryption. We've got everything else in there. And we've got the distribution, the decentralization. Anybody can run their server and get up and share their history. But at the moment, it's actually not encrypted on the server. So you have to trust your server admin, just like on email with an IMAP server or SMTP, which is okay to a point, but we're really looking forward to fixing the end-to-end crypto. And in fact, we're starting on that next week.
Good.
Are you any closer, James, to being able to share?
I broke everything and then realised why it's not working. It's that I had plugged the wrong lead into the MacBook. And right, come on, you can do it.
That's why we call it dangerous demo.
You've no idea how good that makes me feel.
Crash and burn at your own dangerous demo. That's brilliant.
Well.
All right. While we're waiting for James.
On the lost lead front, I distinctly remember spending what must have been about half a day looking for a 3-foot lead in the middle of the desert. We found one in the end. We borrowed one from a radio studio, but
yeah, I could just. This is not the lead you're looking for.
Well, no, it wasn't long enough. It was like I can't connect these two. They don't meet. That was my problem. Anyway,
this.
Incidentally, as a sideline, Radio Shack is going away now, so there'll be no more just randomly looking for leads in convenient places anywhere across North America.
So I'm just sharing your screen.
While we're waiting for James to...
Oh, sorry, Randy.
No, I beg your pardon. Were you going to say? Oh, we're ready here. Somebody's showing something here.
Yeah, sorry, that was just me. I just wanted to show the my side of the matrix course. So this is #VUC on matrix.org, and you can see a whole bunch of different conversations on my left-hand side. Right. And so the idea here is to actually show the iOS application that no one has seen yet because it's not on the App Store, so you have to go and build your own one if you want it to work. And that's what James is just going and screening on his side. So you can see Jim going and chatting in IRC there. I'm going to say there something like, "Hi Jim," into the channel, and you can probably go and post an image into the web client whilst James gets hit.
Yeah, this is where somebody like me comes in and replies to you with mine.
I hope so. Let's find out. Oh, there we go. That's hopefully something not too offensive to go and upload into the...
You've got to be careful here with sharing all these screens.
Yeah, especially my desktop, which has got about 4,000 random files on it, some of which probably shouldn't be put into there.
Is that working? Oh, it is working, yeah! Oh, no, it isn't.
Yes, here's a hello world.
Yeah, well yes.
And a hello
I have got the front of my iPhone up on the screen now, but it's...
Just need to change capture device.
Yeah, it's stuck. It's stuck on the page, so I'm just going to flick into that one and then flick back again. And hopefully it will... Yeah. No! Well, you know what? It worked this afternoon.
I can testify that you had a terrific demo running this afternoon. We don't know what the network problems are.
Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Bodie, we can't give you the prize this time.
Yeah, you're not going to get it this time. I'd like to talk to you because she made the effort to finally get audio and everything, and I'd like to hear a little bit about what you've been doing. What can you tell us?
Well, I want to know. I want to know.
Wait a minute now, James. You may not be able to tell us some things, but what can you tell us about what you've been into?
Yeah, I'm a bit far now from all this beautiful stuff you're testing and you're developing. I'm working in Boston Consulting Group for as analyst of telecom and technology area. It's not only CIS, it's also global, so it's quite exciting for me. And that's what I'm doing for the last 3 months. And before I was in mobile operator for innovations here in Moscow.
So no more cloning James TruePhone Sims, I guess.
No more. That was I'm still interested in this area, and I read some information, and I'm trying to read some hackers. Chats. I'm sorry, I'm a bit tired because we have almost 9 p.m. in Moscow. Yeah, so I'm trying to follow this area, but my main job is far from this all beautiful stuff. I follow in what this big, boring telco and techno company is doing, and that's my job.
And do you think you'll be participating in the TAD Hack this year, which is going to be in Portugal by any chance? That's where we met. all of us?
Yes, so I think so, because I've never been to Portugal, and I'm still in contact with guys. I was in Madrid, and I will attend with a great pleasure if I will have opportunity, because it's kind of it's like a fresh air to be with people who develop something, not just followed by developers like it's in classical industries. So I will do my best to join.
That'd be great.
I will. Oh?
No, I said that would be great. That'd be great.
Yes, for me too. For me too. I heard Lisbon is a great country, and I'll be in Barcelona in 2 or 3 weeks. I don't remember. So if somebody also planning to be there, I will be glad to meet personally.
Mobile World Conference.
Well, yeah, you might just bump into us there.
Pardon me?
You might meet us there.
Is it World Mobile Congress you're going to?
Yeah.
Yes.
You going, Debbie?
Is it World Mobile Congress you're going to?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, I love that event. Have you been before?
No, that's my first time. I've never been. I am
really good.
And it's so. Yes, I know. I heard. So I'm waiting for this moment also. That should be exciting event.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, acquaintances and colleagues all around the world. It's everybody there.
So take good shoes is my advice. You don't worry about having smart shoes. Take shoes you can walk miles in, because the exhibition hall is huge. The first day I took smart shoes, and then I went back and put trainers on, because it is too far to walk the whole thing.
This is very, very true. My feet were literally bleeding after 1 year.
Yes, thank you. I will wear something comfortable. Thank you. And see everything which is there.
There's an awful lot there, and a lot of rubbish actually. Some good stuff.
I would like to announce that I would love to go if somebody was going to want to pay for the trip and the lodging. I'll be there. So let me know.
Me too.
Yeah, Debbie and I would be happy to show up separately if anyone cares to. Well, I mean, we'll split a room with, put a blanket like they did in the 1940s movie. But the point is,
floor. You have to have 1 foot on the floor out of the bed.
Right. No, but anyway, I regret I've never been able to go. I probably don't have the energy to actually walk the floor like you guys are talking about with the good shoes, because my feet are killing me after about 20 minutes. But, well, Yulia, that's fantastic. You and look up TruePhone. They'll be there.
Yeah,
right?
well, yeah, you'll probably find us around, strangely enough, the Ubuntu stand.
Okay. Indeed, I'm going to visit your place there, if you don't mind, of course.
No, and you'll have to make sure you get some invitations to the best cocktail parties. Top tip, the best cocktail party, MWC, is run by Tintec. That's Tyntec.
Okay.
And I think the best party for atmosphere is Swedish beers, and I can get you an invite to that.
What do you mean get me an invite? I live there.
Swedish beers?
That's my home turf, yeah.
Is it?
Yeah,
do you know vegan?
Do I know Helen? I mean, we go back such a long way.
Okay, I didn't know you knew.
I've got photographs of Helen when she had ponytails.
My God. Okay.
She wasn't always the queen of mobile. She used to be the princess of mobile once upon a time, a long, long time. No, I'll have to find some of those old photos of Helen when she was but a mere slip of a girl.
Will she thank you for that?
Slip of a girl. It's been a while since I've heard that.
She may have photos of you, James, from the same era.
Yeah. Photos of me when I had hair and a waistline.
Yeah, that was a while back.
It was a while back, yeah. It was a bit of a while ago.
Amandine and I are also going to be in town for Barcelona. I think Matrix is going to be based out of the open market stand, so if anybody wants to come over to the hall 8.1, I think, it will be buried in the depths of open market land, and come say hi.
Excellent.
My whole career as an artist started because of World Mobile Congress.
Oh.
Tell the story. We don't know it.
I was hired by Helen Keegan to go and video. I make videos as well, a very documentary style. So my first career was as a television producer and director, and Helen Keegan invited me out there with the UKTI, UK Trade and Investment, and Mobile Monday to do some coverage of their event. But I was in the UKTI stand, and I had to film about 6 different companies, one of which was a company called Cute Circuit that made interactive wearable technology. And this was like 5 years ago, and they'd been going for 5 years by that point. And they had made a thing called a hug shirt, which was basically a jacket that responded to a digital trigger which came from a mobile phone. So you could ring your, the jacket received a hug from your mom, so it would contract and hug you in such a manner as your mother would, or you could have a hug from a girlfriend or a boyfriend, and it would hug various parts of your anatomy depending on the phone call. And I had never seen anything like this in my life, and
I guess you probably won't see it ever again.
And they were called Cute Circuit, and I remember filming. I got back home and I Googled them, and then I just, you just kind of get lost in the web of this whole world of wearable technology and materials that responded to digital triggers, and that was it. I was hooked and started making my own interactive wearable art. And yeah, and that's seen me. I've just been. Weirdly, I was on a panel with Cute Circuit in June last year, who are now heralded as one of the top leading people in wearable technology, and I'm going to appear in a book that Bloomsbury are bringing out in summer of this year.
What sort of book?
It's called Smart Materials, and it's been written by a researcher at Nottingham and Trent University who has decided that she has interviewed the top 15 people in the wearable technology space who have contributed knowledge to that area. So apparently I'm the only person that she came across that could actually be bothered to try and learn a little bit about electronics, so that I can at least have a slightly informed conversation with the electronics engineers that I work with. And just basically I've done quite a lot of research into what materials worked, what materials didn't, what the standards were for being able to sell wearable stuff afterwards. And apparently I've contributed largely to the knowledge pool around this subject, so I'm going to appear in her book, which is going to be targeted at degree students working in wearable and smart fabrics.
So 50 degrees of wearable tech.
Can I just ask the people, we're showing the film strip, how many of you have wearable devices of any kind that are connected to whatever? I'll raise my hand because I have one. Anybody else? Watch, wristband, anything that's connected to Bluetooth, whatever? No?
Just audio headsets.
Well, yeah.
I bought first Sony watch, but they didn't work properly, so that was my first and the last attempt to take something wearable.
Okay,
I was
Dan York.
I'm
sorry, Julie, I spoke over you for a second. I just wanted to announce that Dan York joined us, and he's coming from some exotic place where there was a big meeting, and he's been traveling for 800 hours. So, hey, Dan, it's great for you to make the effort. Thank you.
Good to be here, Randy.
The 9%, we're talking about Internet of Things and wearables and stuff. Not that that's the same thing, I guess, but in my mind it's similar. Dan, you came up with a figure that it was something like 9% IP6 at the meeting. That's, at first glance, was impressive, but then thinking about it, not so much.
Okay, so well,
putting you on the spot. You've been traveling. Yeah. I know you don't. You're going to be too weak to defend, but go ahead.
No. So I was at the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, or ICANN, at their one of the 3 meetings that happen each year, and that's all the domain name system. And yeah, there was a gentleman who presented about the process of configuring a show network in a convention center for 1,200 people. And so to people who are into networking and data center porn, I guess you'd say, as far as like the kind of all the exciting stuff to people like us about how the network was put together. It was quite fascinating to understand how they have to ship basically a container of gear to go and create a network that was really good. But out of that, in the midst of that, he did some IPv4 versus IPv6 metrics and found that something on the order of 9% of the traffic coming out of there was IPv6. Which, when you consider that a lot of the market, a lot of the people who are there are business related. A lot of the ICANN meetings at this point are all focused around the new generic top level domains, .book, .bank, .buzz, .guru, .whatever. And so there's a lot of more marketing, business development, non-techies, so that you have that much IPv6 happening in a space when there's a lot of non-technical users is actually kind of interesting. I mean, if they're going to places like Facebook and Wikipedia, any of the Google sites, and they're going over IPv6. But it's actually interesting that you talk about Internet of Things, because that was within the small technology segment of what happens at the ICANN meeting. We actually had a whole discussion around the Internet of Things, because there's a couple of different scenarios for sort of how the Internet of Things may shake out in terms of architecture, protocols, etc. And some of those could start to put more of a demand on the DNS infrastructure if they're starting to identify things by actual domain names, and you start to connect to devices using a domain name, and you have a whole or devices phoning home using a domain name, and suddenly you have hundreds of light bulbs and other sensors within a house, within a lot of houses, that are all pinging out to DNS to get the thing to go to and go back there. So there were some discussions around, if Internet of Things rolls out to the degree we're talking about it, what will there be impacts on DNS? And a lot of it, I think, comes back to this architecture. Do you have devices that connect to an in-home, let's just do the home, but could be a building, whatever. Do you have devices that connect to a local hub, and they all connect to that local device, and then connect across the internet to the cloud or whatever? Or do you have all the devices connecting across the internet back to some central servers and things? And some of those architectural decisions could have impacts on the underlying infrastructure of the internet. So it's interesting to think about and see where all this goes.
I think that you did a fantastic job of defending yourself for a man who's been traveling for something like 28 hours, probably. I just want a show of hands for those of you connected over IPv6. Anybody?
You can't see me
2.
my hand. I'm waving my hand.
And I don't understand the question.
Amandine?
You probably are, Debbie, actually.
Okay.
If you're where I think you are, you almost certainly are connected over IPv6.
And I'm not. And I'm not, because my cable provider, I had to upgrade to get a new modem, because I paid them more money to get a faster connection, and they gave me a broken cable modem that wouldn't support IPv6.
All right, let's jump to this demo, this dangerous demo, because it's so dangerous it may disappear any second. I've put James's, danger is my name. James is looking at, why don't you go ahead and comment, James? What are you doing?
Well, this is the as yet unreleased Matrix client. And it's currently, in fact, if I go back a page, I've got all these channels which are hanging off our TruePhone Matrix server. And one of them is this one at the top, vuc.matrix.org, which is federated in with IRC. So
let me type something in there.
Yeah, so if anybody listening to this, if you've got access to the VUC IRC channel, type something in and you'll see it appear on my iPhone. Was it? Yeah, it's good.
Yes, folks, go ahead. Obscenities are us. Do whatever you want.
So this is deliberately ugly, I should hasten to add, because it's just a reference example of a client you can build on Matrix on iOS, but I think it's the first time that anyone has really seen it out in the wild unless they've gone and built it themselves. And the cool thing is that we've actually added some push notifications to this in the last week or so. So TruePhone, who have been playing with our iOS clients, are now getting lots and lots of push coming in, I imagine, which we can configure both by the per person and per room and the contents of the room, which is kind of exciting, and it's synchronized across all of your devices so that you can basically store all of the config in the server. And as far as I know, nobody provides that level of configurability on a chat service, so you get pushed for precisely the stuff that you're interested in. Presumably we can demonstrate this, James, if you go out of the app and put it on the lock screen, and I can try messaging into the channel and we can see what happens, assuming you've got it turned on and you're on a recent build.
Where is it? It's in here somewhere, isn't it?
It's towards the top, I think, in the settings.
Enable push.
Yeah, so it should be on. Have you been getting push?
I have, but I turn it off.
So you probably turned it off in the system settings. Well, if you go and turn it back on, then we can try sending a message through.
I think that's turned back on, so if I can go back home and back into...
Be sure to show you your password while you're...
Okay, so if you send me a message now, we'll see whether I get a push message.
Okay, so I'm going to type let's see into #VUC, and by default it goes and pushes on everything, but of course that isn't coming through because it's a live dangerous demo, and I bet you've gone and turned it off in the system.
In here?
Yeah.
I think you're probably right. Let's have a look.
Oh, we can see all the apps which...
password!
Oh, we can watch this now. If we
here we go, Let me
get the letters.
So what am I looking for? I'm looking for Matrix, aren't I?
Yeah, Matrix console should be down there.
How much rubbish have I got on my iPhone?
Why have you got 6 different Tinder apps installed? That's why.
Well, they're for different personalities, aren't they?
Yes.
James, we would expect nothing less of you than having too many apps.
Yeah, I had to get
Sims.
I had to get a new iPhone because I just filled it up with apps.
Once I tried to use James's MacBook for a demonstration, and I couldn't believe how long it took me to find the app that I'd started under the mound of windows that were layered on top of each other. I started to clear it up, and then he got very upset that I was deleting things that he minded about. So that didn't work very well.
Don't blame him.
Yeah, Tim, the line is, "This is not the app you're looking for."
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway.
No, I haven't got the beard at the moment, so I can't do that.
No, but in fact, Dan could probably do it quite well.
What?
He's got the wrong accent. It's like you've got to use 2 things you require to do this.
Yeah, this is not. Anyway, so push notifications did work, but I turned... What the heck is that you just sent me?
Sorry, I just went and did a vanity photo of myself taking in the reflection of an old 33-inch CRT many years ago, just to show that it's not just chat in Matrix, and that indeed the photos come up in real time on iOS. And in fact, we send the thumbnail in advance of the high-resolution image, so you get really low-latency image coming through there. But yeah, basically this was just a preview of the iOS client and showing the configurable push. You can only configure it on the web thing at the moment, but I can perhaps go and quickly share my screen and show what that looks like.
Michael wants to know whether you've got an Android client.
Oh yeah, of course. We've got Android as well. You can get that right now from matrix.org/Jenkins. You can pull it out of our continuous integration server. I'm afraid we haven't packaged it up any more nicely than that. But you can see the web client view of the same conversation here, hopefully from me. Yeah, if you can't.
And the code is open source as well, isn't it?
Oh yeah, everything's completely open here, so you can build your own client. You can fork it, and we're really moving towards an open Hangouts style environment where anybody can be running their own chat server, their own chat client, and customize and skin it and etc. as needed.
So Matthew, just looking at your screen over on the left side, we're seeing all the different these channels on Matrix, but then you've also got IRC in there as well, or is that a?
Yeah. So IRC is bridged into Matrix, So hash VUC on matrix.org is bridged in real time through to VUC on Freenode, and that's where we're messing around at the moment. So, and some of these other channels we have there are bridged through to IRC, some of them are one-to-one chats within Matrix, and obviously the hope is that we go and integrate and federate with as many different silos as possible. So what would be lovely is if Wire ever decided to expose their conversation database into Matrix, so you can get at it through third-party services and customers. And in fact, going back to your IoT thing, at FOSDEM we did a full IoT demo because Matrix is just JSON data in the end. If you go and double-click on one of these things, like Michael asking about Android clients here, then you can see the JSON that's sitting there, and it's just text and the message type. But for the IoT demo, we went and started putting telemetry in from Amandine's car. So we had a ODB2 adapter on the car, which was talking Bluetooth to Android phone, that was then talking the Matrix HTTP API to put it into her Matrix server, that federated it over to our Matrix server, which then graphed it in real time using D3 in JavaScript. And so we did a live demo of looking at the RPMs and the fuel efficiency and all that sort of thing coming up on the web client on Matrix. Because in the end, it's just a big distributed pub/sub database for any kind of data. We think this might be the kind of missing ingredient for the Internet of Things.
You know,
Very cool. I got to also see that Michael was 62 years old there.
Can I just ask everybody, we have a great and very diverse panel of folks here. I'm going to ask you all to unmute and just say one word or two about, and that includes you, Amandine, and Andy Smith, and everybody else, in your turn, and I'll name you, and then you can tell me the answer to this question. So the question is, what text do you use to communicate with most of the people you talk to each day? And that would, the choices are Skype, Matrix, SMS, text, Wire, you know, on and on and on. So Amandine, Matrix is, you might like to answer Matrix, but you know, for the bulk of your friends or people that you speak to with text chat daily, what is your main channel, please?
Well, actually, it's still something we've built ourselves, which is the Blah app. We did for it in Brazil, and I converted my friends and family to it and forced them to use it. So that's the main channel with non-work people, and work people are, of course, all over Matrix. Sure. And there is a bit of Hangouts.
And you need to eat your own dog food, as they say, so Matrix would be perfect for that. And it's Andy Smith up next. Now, Andy's the guy that he's the only person I can count on to answer a Hangout, a Google Chat. What used to be called Google Chats, now Hangouts. Andy, what's your main thing, though?
It's an interesting question, because every day I will use Matrix, I will use Skype, I will probably use HipChat, I may well use Wire, and I will use Google Plus and also text messaging as well. It's just I talk to various people, but and each has their own preference. So if they can all get nicely plugged into Matrix, I'd just use Matrix, and that would be that.
This is our biggest challenge. Dan, you're next. I'm going to guess Skype for you, by the way, but go ahead.
You'd be wrong, because actually, it's funny. I have the same kind of challenge that Andy has, and this is actually what I wrote about in my post back in December about the directory problem and the challenge that you have with any service, I mean, including Matrix and Wire and all that, to get that population of people on there so it becomes useful to people to use. But I mean, if I think of what I do, you know, for work, it's mostly Jabber because it's all open standards, all that. But for my own personal connections, a lot of it is iMessage through to people who are iPhone. It's Facebook Messenger for some family and other folks like that. It's Skype, and it's Wire. And maybe occasionally the Hangout, you know, message from that, but you know, it's this whole concoction of different stuff. Only randomly.
Isn't iMessage and Facebook both XMPP anyway, though, or Jabber?
Well, yeah, but they're
behind. Okay.
Well, they're Apple and Facebook's extensions of Jabber, right?
Okay. Debbie, you're next. How do people reach you? I've always wondered, by the way, because you don't answer Twitter very much. Nobody said Twitter, by the way.
No, I do.
You're very bad.
Twitter direct messaging I use every day with certain people. I keep trying to migrate them over to using WhatsApp, because I can say more in WhatsApp than I can on a Twitter DM, which is probably why they don't want to convert, because they think I talk too much anyway. And I've just started using Facebook Messenger. I've just started using Facebook after years of resisting it, and people now know that because I'm on Facebook, then they send messages through to me on Facebook Messenger. So.
But they have to be. The problem with Facebook is you have to friend somebody, and that means a lot of other connotations, like watching their stream and stuff. James is next. I mean, James is like the octopus of this stuff. He's got the most sims of anybody and probably the most channels of anybody, and he's the hardest person to reach. James,
you can always find
what's your number one channel, James? Snapchat?
Well, I don't have one. I mean, I use them all.
Yeah, I knew that. But that's your problem.
But
that
we
is exactly
still do quite a lot of SIP.
Put yourself back on.
We also do quite a lot of Slack. Andy and I tend to use Slack because it's got a very customizable back end, and so we keep on plugging things into it. So, for example, we're doing some work, some demo stuff for MWC with a Sri Lankan company, and we've got that configured so that every time they try and make any calls or try to do anything with our infrastructure, it tells us, and that's quite useful. And of course, yes, Matthew, we do use Matrix more and more and more. Because my life is complicated, the concept of having a federated central core is very, very attractive. So in many cases, you know that you want to talk to me, but you don't know. In fact, let's stop that screen sharing, then you will see me.
Yeah, you need to see you.
I like how to heckle. What's the fun in that?
You can heckle.
Yeah,
Hi, James. We've spent enough time with you. Next is Matthew. Your channel. You have to exclude a Matrix here. What besides Matrix? Because obviously, for reasons of what you do all day, you're on Matrix. But what else?
I guess I have very well-defined preferences for different different channels. So. I mean, my main one has always been IRC, because I'm a geek. In fact, our company existed as an IRC channel for about 3 years before it got incorporated about 15 years ago now. So it gives you an idea of just how much IRC is in our DNA there. Obviously, Matrix is replacing IRC, or at least assimilating IRC, I should say. But other than that, on the personal side, like MND, and I use Blah a lot with my friends and family. And something I use quite a lot is end-to-end secure messaging app called Threema, which is done by some guys in Switzerland, I think, which has some fairly sophisticated end-to-end crypto. So whenever I'm feeling paranoid, that works pretty well too. And I think that's my and Y, obviously, for just general group chat as well, which is fun just for the user interface. I don't know what it is. There's something quite compelling about the polish on the user experience, and God, I wish it federated into Matrix, but we'll see what happens there.
That's true. It's true.
What was the name of the secure app you used? I missed hearing it.
It's called Threema, so it's like the number 3 MA, and it stands for end-to-end encryption, hence 3, and then MA on the end to make it more pronounceable.
Okay, next is Michael Graves. I don't know what he's going to say, because he's reachable on a lot of channels. Except he's got no audio for the moment, or he's not hearing me. Michael, wake up.
Probably use more IRC, Twitter, and email more than anything else, but not so much anything else.
Might be worth mentioning that ZipDX itself, we're on a call right now, and ZipDX also has a built-in client. So that's, I have about 8 channels open right now. Wire Matrix, ZipDX is one, although we're not using it. And of course the Hangout. The Hangout has a chat, and I'm on IRC in 2 locations. So, but I jump my turn.
Some are application specific, right? Like ZipDX chat is really only just for people moderating a call or on a call. Wire is good, except since all you guys are on the other side of the planet, Wire goes quiet for me in the afternoon.
Oh.
True. Well, we'll see what we can do about that. Next up is Tim. Tim, I know, used to use Skype a lot because of the corporate culture before. I don't know now.
Yeah, no. So at the moment I'm using Wire for kind of work data, mostly. Depends on pretty much on who wants me to use what. I mean, so work-wise, I just follow whatever it is the current people are suggesting. So Slack or Yammer or whatever. For me personally, I quite like Twitter. Twitter DMs seem to work quite well. Lightweight client, so I kind of tend to use that. And then amongst my Facebook friends, Facebook Messenger. So
yeah, you keep on calling me on Facebook because you've learned that it's much louder than all the other clubs.
It's the only one you can reach James on.
Yeah.
Use next. What chat clients or instant messaging do you use?
Yuri, I'm sorry when I told at the beginning just another messenger. It wasn't just another messenger. It's beautiful, but I'm reachable, so I have 8 messengers on my smartphone, and it's including all this WhatsApp, Hangouts, Skype, etc. And also I have 2 local messengers from local. No, I have 3 local messengers, which is popular in CIS. But I personally prefer WhatsApp. For me, it's quite intuitive. It's have all functions I need. For example, I can see when another person was online. I can save all chat and send it to email, and it's quite simple and intuitive, and it have everything I need. And like a cherry in a cake, it was created by Ukrainians, so that's why I prefer WhatsApp. That much.
Okay, both. That's great. Hey, Dan York, no one mentioned Yammer, and I know that you and I tested it, not together, but I mean, you were kind of big on it at one time.
Hey, I mentioned Yammer.
I sent emails from them about, hey, Yammer does this, Yammer does. Any comments on that? That was huge at one time. What's happening with that?
Well, so I'm now in the second organization that we tried using Yammer, and then it faded out. I think in large part because you go back to the directory challenge, but you go back to the also issue of being yet another place to check.
Yeah.
And which is quite honestly the same reason I haven't gotten engaged in Slack as much, because it is yet another place for me to go and check and engage with people. And at some point, I only have so many brain cells to allocate attention to different things, and Yammer is one that I've seen now with 2 organizations. It started out as something that people were using, and then it kind of tailed off. I think because of this, yet another place to be, yet another thing. And unlike, say, Facebook or Google Plus or something, where you're there for your own personal things, or you might be into it more. I think Yammer suffered from that, and the big thing with Yammer actually that killed it off for me was they did away with the Mac OS client, and they had just the web client. And for me, web client alone doesn't work, because in my normal day of work and the stuff I do, I'll have a dozen different windows open, each of which have 10 or 12 tabs or something. So for me to try to go find my Yammer tab or to be something I go back into, it just didn't happen for me. So that was a big thing to me that took me out of that space.
If you think about it, I was just thinking, well, what we really need is some kind of hub that brings all this stuff together. So, hey, call me on this, call me on that. But that hub is called the cell phone, right? So your phone. But I mean, if you've got all these apps that are going to notify you, James will be the first to say, my thigh is buzzing, my thigh is vibrating all day.
Well, the problem is it does all the time.
Yeah.
And in fact, it's not one thigh, it's both thighs, and my breast pocket all going at the same time.
You've got your Batman belt that's got a bazillion things on you.
It's back to Debbie's huggable jacket, basically. You built the most expensive hugging jacket in the world by putting cell phones all around you.
But that's the thing, right? Is notifications become useless when there's too many of them, and also, quite honestly, I mean, for me, it's battery life. I don't have all these apps running in the background because they chew up battery, and they make my my cell phone becomes less useful because of that. So I only run a few.
So that's changing actually now, that the apps don't need to run the way that notifications work on cell phones is interesting. Is now getting rich enough that you don't need to run. I mean, presumably Matthew's just spent a while in this space trying to work out how to optimize it, and there's a fun set of functionality that you can extract from a notification with or without having your client running, which is, I mean, there's actually too many options there. As a developer, there's like, whoa, what do I do? But at least there are some possibilities.
Yeah. We've been doing this for some time, and you just don't have the your app running all the time, but you just spawn the process when you get an APNS notification. Much better.
Well, but Randy, back to your question too. I mean, if you look at how we've attempted to solve this within the IM world, you've got some cases like, I mean, a lot of people, myself included, run the ADM or ADM client on our Macs or Pigeon on the Windows side that brings together all your IM accounts into one app, so then you can communicate out and have a unified chat experience on the client side. You've got that as one solution, and you've got the other one, which I think Matthew is certainly trying to do with Matrix, to do that on the back end and provide a federated environment there. And two different ways. And a lot of the federation in the IM space wound up breaking down because people wouldn't federate, right? So we had to solve it on the client side in some cases.
Of course, Google killing Google Talk or Chat, or I get confused with all these marketing names, but I mean that kills what you just said for that channel. Facebook, I just discovered recently, thanks to Tim, that you can actually talk to people on Facebook as it were they're on Messenger, but you have an XMPP client, and there's one for Android, and there's of course you can use iMessage on Mac for that. I didn't even know that until he told me.
I think they're turning that off though. As in, I think that's getting end of life in May, if I remember correctly. And
really?
Well, the XMPP link for all of Google Talk itself is getting turned off.
Right. No, but I mean, right. But I'm talking about the Facebook end, unless they've put an end to XMPP as well.
Well, if you know Tim, you know that he specializes in end of life protocols.
No. It's more that I kill them. I get interested in them, and that kills them dead.
Stay away from Matrix, Tim.
Well, I was going to say you're completely safe with Matrix because I will not adopt any federated protocol until I find one that's secure that has secure identity.
Perfect.
And identity where I don't have to trust the lying clown who set up a server a long way away.
Yeah.
And because my experience with the red phone on my desk and my SMS and email is that over a few years you will get a constant stream of noise that outweighs the signal by a factor of 100 to 1. And that's the thing that kills you. And James is about to ring my red phone and prove that any idiot around
would I do a thing like that?
Yes.
I thought the red phone was because you're a superhero.
No, the red phone, it says on my LinkedIn thing, the red phone is there to remind me how little telecommunications has changed in 60 years.
Oh.
And I know you only get insurance accident claim calls on that these days.
Oh, yes, pretty much actually. Occasionally I get real people, but very, very rare.
Fred mentioned something worth repeating here, by the way, which is that Jitsi also integrates with Facebook. He's responding to somebody's question. Thomas asked about it. And it's true that Jitsi does XMPP, and it's been around for a while, and it works very, very well, and it'll talk to, well, we don't want to mention Google Talk again because there's something like February 16th. They're killing it. What a shame that is, by the way, because I kind of live on that part of the universe, and it's too bad that you can't use that anymore. But anyway, everybody has their own agenda. It's like reading newspapers. Every media has their own agenda, and every silo has their own agenda. Except Matrix isn't a silo, so it's okay.
I think there's an interesting kind of small process maybe happening. I've seen a number of these of physical items that notify you of something. I saw a really nice IoT thing that somebody had done where they had it was almost like a cuckoo clock, but they had this thing, and the physical position of the hand showed where they were in their day. So when he arrived in the office, the sort of barometer swung round to office and sat there. And then when he was like, you know, traveling or something or whatever, so the kids could come home and look and say, oh, Dad's, you know, on his way home. And knew physically from this thing that was sitting in the kitchen, and it was a physical hand that moved. And I'm warm. I mean, to an extent, Debbie does this kind of stuff as well with the, you know, things that physically react or change their look depending on external inputs. But I think I'm actually, you know, that's the best thing about the Red Phone is the tactile experience. It sounds great and it feels like something real, and I've said Red Phone a couple of times. I should kind of wave it at you just in case you're. You know. But that thing is brilliant physically. So I think we may be in for a resurgence of physical devices that notify you about your friend's status. But there's a random thought.
Well, my watch does that actually. It buzzes whenever somebody says.
You're vibrating your wrist, don't you?
Yeah. You did. Well, you did, and it gets my attention.
I bet it does.
The pants pocket thing works less well for me. I think it's an age thing. I'd like to go by and see what everybody has to say about maybe looking at what they're doing. This is one of those. Oh, good. There it is.
Gotcha. I couldn't remember what your number was. Sorry, Tim.
The red phone number? We should publish
it. Who wants to know what Tim's red phone number is?
No, we don't want to do that. So let's. Why don't we conclude with anything we may have forgotten from what anybody would like to say, or if you want to just give a URL for where people can reach you, or a Twitter, or a whatever,
or a red phone number.
Or a red phone number. Because this has been a fantastic panel. I really appreciate every one of you coming tonight. This is fantastic. I'm really pleased. And you've all taken the time to do it. I'm going to call on Amandine because she's on my extreme left on my screen to say if you have a final comment or how people can reach you, if you want to get Twitter followers, or you want people to know about Matrix. What would you like to say as your concluding and parting shot, Amandine?
Well, I guess we can remind that all the information.org and at matrix.org on Twitter. I had something about this whole idea of getting all the clients together, but I lost it, so I'm sorry. If I recall before the end, I'll come up with it. But yeah, so I'm sorry, I completely lost it.
Okay, I do that all the time, so don't worry about it. Andy Smith is next. Andy, anything you'd like to contribute?
Yeah, I think so. For me here, having talked about all these different messengers, and the more that I think about this, and Tim saying that he wouldn't use anything now pretty much that's not end-to-end encrypted. Once end-to-end encryption is there within Matrix, all the rest all but become redundant, as long as you can federate into them. So I'm all I'm behind Matthew and Amandine here very much with Matrix, and that's what I'm looking forward to in the future, I think.
Plus, they're part of our community, and that's important. Mr. York is next, and then he's going to be able to go get some rest.
Well,
where do people find you, Dan? You're all over the internet. Tell us about it.
Well, I mean, people can find me at Dan York on many social networks, or danyork.me is my site that brings together all my writing and audio and everything else. But I think, the part I heard on here was quite fascinating, but I go back to this directory problem that we have, this challenge that we have in general. And I think it's, I know Jim put a link to the article I wrote in, and I'm going to be publishing an updated version of that soon. But, we have this challenge that we're looking at the space, and you look at these big identity providers like Facebook and Google and Apple and all of these different players who are kind of by default becoming the identities that people use out there, and Skype as well in some cases in some places. And it's interesting to think about how do we really want, what do we want the internet to look like in terms of access and in terms of reaching people. And, do we want to have all of these different walled gardens that we have to go into to run 8 different messaging apps, Randy, so that you can be able to connect all these people. Or how do we unify them in different ways, or how do we work with that? And is it the case that ultimately Facebook wins or Google wins or something like this, and everybody just uses that, or WhatsApp, or pick your app, or is it that we somehow figure out how to navigate through this when those big players don't have financial incentives or any incentives to federate as well? So I think it's going to be a very interesting time in this time ahead to look at how we make this work in some way to be able to to have that messaging and be able to reach people. So I think we've got a lot of interesting choices ahead of us.
Agreed. We're going to move to Debbie. I'm trying to get Debbie's, if I could just click on this. There we go. Debbie, we're going to put your Twitter up here. Just for fun. But what would be your...
I'm always looking to collaborate with people. So one of the exciting things about working as an artist is that I'm determined to work with other people's technology and see if there can be, some fun had working with people from a completely different discipline. So if there's any tech you want to try out, I can make it interesting enough for people who wouldn't normally engage with you to take an interest, because I think art is a real gateway into people going, oh, how does that work? That's interesting on a visual level. So
that's an interesting thought. Debbie does Matrix.
Debbie does Matrix. After I've done America and everyone else, I haven't heard that before.
Well, James, that brings it to you, in fact. Debbie, thanks a million for joining us. That's your first time. I hope it won't be your last.
No, I hope not.
No, I hope not too. I'm going to go completely different direction to Dan. I mean, for me, I have so many channels. People can always get through, but the problem is not people getting through to me. It's me deciding who I want to talk to. Because all the time, all of my channels are all lit up all of the time, and lots of people want to talk to me, but I then have to choose who I talk to. So it's an opposite problem for me. It's all about policing who can talk. And I'd like to introduce things like the concept of precedence. How important is that phone call? And if the person calling me only rates it as a 1 or 2 on a scale of 1 to 10, then there's no way they're going to get through to me. Oh
my goodness, you're channeling Alex Saunders from about 8 years ago, aren't you?
I owed him.
Yeah, my brother Alec. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, but anyway, that's my thought. And remember, telephone numbers, PSTN, E164 numbers are not dead. They've got a long way to go yet.
What are those things, James?
They're the things that power the world, actually, Dan. And the sweet spot to be is in the area in which the IETF world meets the ITU, in that nice little bit where they overlap, and that's where I live. So that's me.
Well, maybe IPv6 addresses. They're so easy to remember and talk about.
IPv6.
All right, let's move on to Matthew. Matrix.org, and what else?
Matrix.
Unmute myself. Yes, I can talk about more than Matrix.
Matrix is awesome. Matrix.
Oi. So, yes, obviously, you can find out about it on matrix.org, which I hasten to add got updated a few weeks ago, and has now got a dodgy animation on the front page, which I urge you to look at.
Beautiful animation.
A beautiful animation that you should go and pull around with, and that's got all of our details on it. In terms of final leaving thoughts, I think Dan is has a great subject matter here with the whole directory and this whole question of how you go about how we actually unify any of these communications, whether we aggregate them on the client, do we federate them on the back end, do we go for consolidation and assume that everyone's going to be using WhatsApp 2 years from now? I mean, it's a really, really interesting time to be involved in this. And I think the thing that's changed the most is that end users, just normal folks, are starting to realize how fragmented their communication is. I mean, Amandine and I were writing a trade mag article for MWC last night, which is why we're both a bit asleep now. And one of the examples we came up with is that in the WebRTC world, how do you call someone on WebRTC? Well, you go and send them a URL by email or instant messaging, and you then force them to use that app. And if you just want to go and voice call them or video call them or chat with them, that's just a catastrophically bad user experience. Why should I be forcing you to go and use my app by chucking you a URL? I mean, imagine if every time your phone rang, the user interface of your phone magically transformed to be that of the phone which was calling you. So my iOS phone would suddenly come up with an Android UI. People would go nuts. They wouldn't accept it. So why should we accept that for WebRTC? So obviously we hope the Matrix will provide the federated backbone for everything to go and talk to everything else. Who knows? And yeah, it's interesting that end-to-end encryption is becoming more and more topical. Although going back to what Andy said, it's also interesting that end-to-end encryption is Federation's nemesis, because by definition, if you've got end-to-end crypto, how do you federate with a different silo? If it's talking a different end-to-end encryption standard, or if it's not encrypted, then you have to break the crypto to bridge and gateway into that other silo. So that's one of the reasons we've been a bit slow on doing our end-to-end crypto, because we want to make it as interoperable as possible. Ideally, we want to interoperate with WhatsApp, which uses axolotl, which is it's a standard for key ratcheting. But there are some problems with that too. But we're looking forward to doing it, and certainly the feedback from FOSDEM and other recent stuff has been that people really want their crypto, so it will be coming real soon now. Until then, everyone do play with...
We want our crypto. We want our crypto. Hey, Matthew, you know that all of us in the community are behind what you folks are doing, so thank you for the efforts. Michael, I just want to get your, because I can never remember which it is, your URL for the blog is...
mgraves.org.
mgraves.org. Michael writes, many of you may not know this, but Michael writes a lot of reviews about hardware and software and has a lot of interesting things on that blog. It's not limited to VoIP. There's a lot of home automation stuff. In fact, next week we're going to be talking to Grandstream about their security stuff, and Michael's going to be leading that session. Tim Panton, what would you like to be known for if this was your last night on the Internet?
Oh God, really?
No,
well, I tell you, I mean, my current interest is actually much more around anthropology. Mm-hmm. I think what you're all describing a problem that does exist, but you're describing technical solutions to it, and I think that you have to step back from it and work out what the user actually wants and what they will naturally accept, and I think that's actually around the anthropology of the problem. About
I'm actually working with an anthropologist at the moment here in Berlin.
Cool. I'll have to come out and visit you.
We're doing a user experience workshop with an anthropologist and a guy called Chris Adams, who's done a lot of UX and design in London.
But I think any solution that doesn't take into account the way that we manage our friends will fail on the Federation, and it will fail on James's problem of, do I want to talk to them? I think we have to get back to understanding. This was supposed to be a short thing, and it hasn't turned out that way. But anyway, so my thing is anthropology. I'm really interested in the crossover between anthropology and real-time communication, because I think there's something new to do there. I don't know what it is yet, but I think it's interesting.
Snapchat.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Like, you know, a picture paints 1,000 words or whatever.
I think they've cracked it. We don't want to. We'll have to go do a whole number on that because it's fascinating stuff. Anyway, Julia, final words, or how can people reach you if you allow them to reach you?
Yes, thank you once again for invitation. As I said, I have lots of messages. I have all type of messengers except Twitter. I don't have Twitter.
Oh.
And I don't know, I just don't have. And you easily can reach me, and I'm always will answer. I will try to answer, maybe with some delay. My email, Julia, or it's better to ask Randy because it's quite difficult to spell. And about messengers, as I told, it's my problem because it's too much, and I'm so waiting when somebody will finally create one like integrator of other messengers. So I would like to have one app, and that's all. But I use many messengers for convenience of other people. And about science and anthropology, yes, for digital is quite a new stuff. But I read last month very great book by Phil Barden. It's about marketing. I see just now on local language this it's like Phil Barden. I will send the link. It's really explain lots of stuff how people react, how they use their attention, etc. Colors, what colors better use, what's better use for achieve some targets, and I'll send a link. And yes, that's something. How people react and what they really want, their insights. It's very interesting area, and it's something that we should pay attention, even more than technical side.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, and I hope we'll see you in wherever we're going to be, Portugal, someplace, or Lisbon. I'm not sure. Thank you, everybody. I really, really do appreciate it. I'm personally moved that you all showed up for this and took the time. And I know there were some secret deals Ahmadine had to negotiate, and Matthew and everybody. So we're going to let you go with a little bit of music, and the broadcast will end at the end of the music. But if anybody wants to hang out on the Hangout, we will then no longer be public. Thanks again. Join us next week for Grandstream Security stuff with Michael Graves. And join us every Friday. This is exciting. I mean, this is the bleeding edge, and it's fun, and we have a great community. Bye.
Thanks, bye.
Press the button. No.
C.me on the web. Thanks to Simwood.com, who can turn you as a developer into a telco. Our hosted PBX is provided by OnStep.com. The site at VUC.me is on Bluehost.com. We use ZipDX.com for our wideband, full-featured conference bridge. And our local rate dial-ins are from Voxphone.com. Every Friday, 12 noon Eastern Time. See you next week.